Have you ever noticed strange shadows in the ocean? Or maybe you've heard stories about mysterious creatures lurking in places humans can't reach. Today, we'll uncover the truth about the serpent that spawned 1,000 sailor legends, meet a deer with actual vampire fangs, and discover sharks that swam with dinosaurs and still exist today. The oarfish has been mistaken for sea serpents for centuries, stretching over 36 feet through the deep ocean. The Chinese water deer looks adorable until it opens its mouth to reveal 3-inch fangs. And lurking in the darkest depths of the sea, there's a shark so prehistoric, so unchanged, that scientists call it a living fossil from the age of dinosaurs. But that's not all. We'll meet the beastmen that explorers swore were myths, discover a fish that was supposed to be extinct for 66 million years but turned up alive, and face the real-life dragons that inspired centuries of legends. From blood-fanged deer to eel sharks from the Jurassic period, these 6 creatures prove that sometimes the myths are real. They're just hiding where we haven't looked. For thousands of years, sailors told terrifying tales of massive sea serpents rising from the depths. Serpents as long as ships, with silver bodies that shimmered in the moonlight, and ribbon-like fins that undulated through the water. Ancient mariners swore these monsters were real. Scientists dismissed them as drunk sailors and overactive imaginations. Turns out, the sailors were right all along. Meet the oarfish, the longest bony fish in existence. This creature can grow up to 36 feet long, though some unconfirmed reports claim specimens over 50 feet. Its body is ribbon-flat, silvery, and covered with tiny scales that create an almost mirror-like surface. A bright red mohawk-like crest runs along its head, and its entire body ripples like a living ribbon as it swims vertically through the water. The oarfish lives in the deep ocean, typically between 600 and 3,000 feet below the surface, which is exactly why it remained a mystery for so long. It rarely comes to the surface, and when it does, it's usually because the fish is sick, dying, or disoriented. Ancient sailors who spotted these massive silver serpents rising from the depths had no idea what they were looking at, so they created legends of sea monsters. The first live oarfish wasn't filmed until 2001, despite the creature existing in oceans worldwide. Scientists still know very little about its behavior, diet, or population size. What we do know is absolutely fascinating. The oarfish has no scales on its head, no teeth, and feeds by filtering small prey from the water. It can regenerate damaged fins, and some deep-sea researchers have reported seeing them swimming in an upright position, their heads pointing toward the surface like living periscopes. The Japanese call it Ryugu no Tsukai, which translates to messenger from the sea god's palace. They believe that when oarfish wash ashore, earthquakes and tsunamis will soon follow. While there's no scientific evidence for this, the legend persists. Before we continue with the video and explore more legendary creatures that turned out to be real, I'd like to ask for your help. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe and support me. Okay, let's continue. Now, imagine walking through a peaceful forest and seeing what looks like an innocent, adorable deer. You think it's harmless, right? Then it opens its mouth, and you see 3-inch fangs protruding downward like a vampire ready to strike. This isn't a monster from a horror movie. This is the Chinese water deer, and those fangs are very, very real. The Chinese water deer, scientifically known as Hydropotes inermis, originally comes from Korea and China, but has since spread to other parts of the world, including Europe and even parts of the United States. Unlike regular deer that grow antlers, male water deer evolved something far more intimidating. Actual tusks that look exactly like vampire fangs. These fangs can grow up to 3 inches long and are sharp enough to inflict serious damage. Male water deer use them as weapons during fights over territory and mates. When 2 males clash, they rear up on their hind legs and slash at each other with these tusks, aiming for the neck and face. The fights can be brutal and bloody. The scientific name Hydropotes inermis literally translates to without armor, referring to the fact that they lack antlers. But calling them without armor seems ironic when you see those massive fangs. These deer prefer to live near water sources like lakes, rivers, and swamps, which is how they got the name water deer. Despite their vampire-like appearance, water deer are actually herbivores and pose little threat to humans unless cornered or provoked. But those fangs have inspired countless legends and stories throughout Asia about deer-like creatures with the teeth of predators. The vampire deer proves that sometimes nature creates something far stranger than fiction. Who needs mythical monsters when real animals come equipped with built-in daggers in their mouths? Let's travel back to the 5th century BCE. A Carthaginian explorer named Hanno sailed down the west coast of Africa and returned with terrifying tales. He claimed to have encountered tribes of wild, hairy beastmen, creatures that walked upright like humans but were covered in fur, incredibly strong and absolutely savage. He called them gorillae. For over 2,000 years, Europeans dismissed these stories as primitive superstition and exaggeration. Surely, large apes that looked almost human couldn't exist. It was just another tall tale from uneducated natives and imaginative explorers, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. In 1847, American missionary Thomas Savage was in West Africa when local people told him about massive, aggressive apes living in the forests. Unlike previous European explorers who had ignored or dismissed such claims, Savage actually investigated. What he found shocked the scientific world: skulls and bones of an ape species completely unknown to Western science. He named them troglodytes gorilla, keeping Hanno's ancient name. Later, scientists would rename them gorilla. Here's the truly mind-blowing part. Photography had already been invented by this time. The first permanent photograph was created in 1826. When gorillas were officially discovered in 1847, humans had already been taking pictures for over 20 years. Think about that. We could photograph our world before Western science would acknowledge that gorillas existed. The locals had known about gorillas forever. They lived alongside these creatures, hunted near them, and told accurate stories about them. But colonial scientists refused to believe indigenous knowledge until a Western missionary confirmed it. Adult male gorillas can weigh up to 400 pounds, stand over 6 feet tall, and are estimated to be up to 10 times stronger than an average human. These beastmen that ancient explorers described weren't myths or exaggerations. They were accurate descriptions of one of our closest living relatives. The gorilla's story isn't just about discovering an animal. It's about how science ignored truth for centuries because it came from the wrong people.